Hey, it's a term we use every single year in fantasy football, the second-year breakout. Well, who are this year's potential second-year breakouts? Let's find out. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back. Next episode, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Today we're talking about second-year breakouts. It's kind of a term you probably hear a lot in fantasy football. It's kind of been something over the past, few years that people have really started to pay attention to, because a lot of times incoming rookies can really struggle getting the grasp of the NFL game early on. By the time that second year comes around, they get that additional offseason, the extra chemistry with the rest of their team. Some of these guys have a tendency to put up some pretty decent numbers here in year two. So in this episode, you can see them listed right there on the side of your screen. We have a few guys going into year two of their NFL career that could be potential breakouts. We're going to talk about them. We're going to discuss them. We're going to see what we come up with. Before I get right into it, make sure you head over there to our website, TheFantasyHeadliners.com. Our draft guide here for 2019 is already available for pre-order. And right now, if you get your order in and get it in quickly, we're going to pick one of the first 100 orders and randomly select somebody to get their draft guide for free. It's only $19.99 and it is packed full of information. If you haven't checked out the video about that, it was released here a few days ago, so make sure you go check that out. But now, let's head in to this year's second year potential breakouts for 2019. Before I get into this list here real quick, I want to make sure I let you guys know I pulled a lot of this information from the website fantasyfootballcalculator.com. If you're not familiar with it, scroll down in the description. There's a link to it. Tons of tools and research there available for you guys if you're looking for some extra stuff here off-season fantasy football related. But now, number one on the list, it's Kerryon Johnson. Carry on my wayward son Johnson, as I like to call him. And he's definitely somebody who has huge potential. Huge potential. The problem is Matt Patricia doesn't care about you or your fantasy football team, and I really don't think he gives him the opportunity to be that huge bell cow running back. Now, we know he didn't really finish the season last year, had a knee sprain, no major injuries, no major surgeries, should be fine here beginning of the season. And he appeared in 10 games, had 641 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, added in another 213 yards receiving, and a touchdown through the air there in 2018. The problem is, and this quote came out here recently from Matt Patricia, head coach of the Detroit Lions, and I'm going to read it here to you. It says, regardless of Kerryon, I think it's a position-specific thing where these guys, they take a lot of hits, Patricia said. They're in those situations a lot with their bodies are taking some pounding, so you want to be conscious of how many plays they're getting, especially early on in the year. Come on. And obviously, we just want to win. That's the most important thing, but you do have to look at the big picture and say, okay, great, we could win a couple of games now, but if we wear this guy out, he doesn't help us in the long run, then what's the trade-off? Now, the way I interpret that is, yeah, we're going to use him, and he's probably going to be our number one starter, but he's not going to get the full workload. They're going to keep fresh backs in there. Whether they add somebody in the draft in the later rounds, we'll have to wait to see. Right now on the roster, really all they have is Zach Zenner and Theo Riddick. Blunt's a free agent, but what's going to happen with this running game? It's really up in the air. Right now, Kerryon Johnson has a 4th round ADP. That may change the closer we get to the season, and now that this news is coming out from him, and yes, I get it's coach speak. You can't really read a whole lot into it, but if you look at the way the NFL has been going, there's very few bell cows left, and it doesn't look like Kerryon's on his way to be one just yet. So tread lightly. I'm not going to be one of these guys that targets Kerryon heavily in the drafts, because there's other guys in that same position with this same opportunity. He really may not stand out above those other guys in the same area. Next up is going to be DJ Moore, wide receiver, Carolina Panthers. And this guy could be in line for some huge targets here in 2019. I mean, they left behind 200 targets from Devin Funchess and possibly Greg Olsen if he does not return. That's a lot of volume that needs to be, split between these offensive weapons. The problem is there's not a whole lot of offensive weapons. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey. Outside of that, as of right now, not a whole lot of other options out there that can command big targets that way. With 200 targets up for grabs, that means DJ Moore is going to see more work. Last year, 55 receptions, 788 yards, added in another 13 rushes for 172 yards. He's going to be somebody who's heavily involved in the offense. Now, how will the quarterback play be in Carolina? Iffy. Cam right now, we already know, has had shoulder surgery. How he's rehabbing and how he comes back, we will see. but he's also given up all kinds of things in the offseason trying to get his mind right. Hopefully it works, because DJ Moore is going to be the #1 wide receiving option for the Carolina Panthers. He's going to see the targets. The problem is, are those targets catchable? We need to get a little bit more word on Cam Newton, see some of his workouts here later in the offseason, and see if we can trust the arm of Cam Newton. If we can't, it's going to be really hit and miss for DJ Moore. Yes, he may see the volume, but like I said, if they're not catchable targets, I don't care if he gets 200 of them. If he can only be eligible really to catch 40 of them. That's the big problem right now. That's what we need to wait and see. If Cam is healthy, I love DJ Moore, because right now he's slipping to the mid-rounds, and he's somebody who could see a huge target share here in 2019. All right, next up, Calvin Ridley, wide receiver, Atlanta Falcons. Really like some Calvin Ridley this year. Had a decent year last year as a rookie year, 64 receptions, 821 yards, 10 touchdowns, and he still has Julio opposite of him to pull away that defensive coverage, which is great. He's not out there trying to do it all alone. Mohamed Sanu is also another one of these very serviceable wide receivers to help pull some of this attention away. Now, he didn't get as much time in the slot last year as I was hoped he would, but if that number can increase and he can see more snaps out of the slot, this guy could put up some absolutely huge numbers in Atlanta. We know Devonta Freeman's coming back. Hopefully he can get the run game going better than Tevin Coleman did last year, because if that run game can get going, it's really going to make it difficult on the defense to play both facets, both the run and the passing game. We already know that Atlanta is going to throw the ball a ton. They were only one of 6 teams last year that had over 600 pass attempts in 2018. It's definitely going to be one of these high-powered, high-passing offenses. Every time you have Julio Jones out there, you know that you can expect Matt Ryan to throw it quite a bit. Now, there's 2 stats that really stand out for me for Calvin Ridley from last year. The first one, yards of separation per target. He had almost 2 yards of separation every time he was targeted at 1.84 yards. Now, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but in the NFL, that's borderline wide open and about as open as you can possibly get. The guy has great separation skills, a great release package off the line. He's definitely somebody, like I said, if he can get more opportunities in the slot, I really think that we see a huge step forward for Calvin Ridley. The touchdowns were already there, but the receptions and yardage could definitely come up a lot here in 2019. Also, his catchable target rate was 85%. I mentioned it with DJ Moore, right? It doesn't matter if he gets 200 targets, if he can only catch 40 of them. 85% of a catchable target rate here for Calvin Ridley means that not only is he getting the targets, but he's getting catchable targets from Matt Ryan. Definitely a solid quarterback for him to get volume from, and I expect a decent year from Calvin Ridley. He may get a little bit more expensive the closer we get to draft season, but if you can find this guy in the middle rounds and add him to your roster as your wide receiver 3 at least, definitely some huge upside for Calvin Ridley. Darius Guice next up on the list, and we were really excited for Darius Guice last season, right? Then the knee injury happened, missed the entire season, didn't get to see any Darius Guice. Well, now you're finally starting to see a little bit more. He's pretty active on social media, and you can see lately he has a lot of clips, circulating of him doing drills, looking explosive, very good agility. He looks like he's getting close to being 100% again. The issue with Darius Guice is not so much him, though. What really happens with Adrian Peterson? How involved is old man Adrian Peterson when if he comes back? How much of a role is he going to get? Now, it's a great opportunity for Darius Guice to learn from Adrian Peterson, but we have ourselves kind of like a Kenyon Drake, Frank Gore situation from last year, where it's kind of just hit and miss, and the usage really isn't there from a weekly basis. That's going to be what we need to pay attention to. Also, don't forget about Chris Thompson. Does he come in and take away third downs again this year? This is a running back who's been very productive in that role. Do they kind of just abandon him now that he's going to be coming into the season healthy? I really don't think so. There's a lot of questions here with this offense, a lot of questions with their offensive weapons in general. Do we see, them make a move here, the end of free agency or in the draft? Entirely possible to get more weapons there. But right now, Darius Guice is not somebody I want to draft and rely upon in fantasy football. I don't mind targeting him as a flyer, somebody that I can keep on my bench, as a potential lottery ticket. But am I going in there and hoping for him to be my RB1 or 2? Absolutely not. Not for 2019 anyway. Time to fire up the Rolls-Royce Freeman now, and this is a guy we talked about a lot last year, right? We were happy outside of the draft that he went to Denver. We thought he was going to get a big opportunity there, but unfortunately, Philip Lindsay didn't give 2 craps what we thought. He went in there, took the job, held on to it, and had an absolutely great great season, not taking anything away from Phillip Lindsay. However, don't forget, he had a pretty major wrist injury there at the end of 2018, one that required off-season surgery, pretty extensive off-season surgery, to the point now where he may not be ready for OTAs. How much does this limit Phillip Lindsay? How long does it actually take him to rehab? How long till he's back to 100%? Royce Freeman could get a great opportunity to start the season, and if he can produce decent numbers, he could really carve out a solid role in this offense. We already know new coaching staff there in Denver. They're going to give him an opportunity, a lot of draft capital invested in Royce Freeman. And he wasn't horrible in 2018. He wasn't what we thought, but he did have over 500 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, and he faced a lot of stacked boxes. Now, with those stacked boxes that he faced in Denver, he still averaged 4.7 yards per carry in those stacked boxes. He is a solid running back, did not really enjoy running behind a fullback, used to more of that single back set from college, and if they can get him in that situation more this year, Royce Freeman could have a decent low end. I can't even call him an RB2 yet, because I need to find out what happens with Phillip Lindsay. But if Phillip Lindsay does miss time, I expect bigger things from Royce Freeman. Not somebody I reach for in the draft, but if he falls to me in the mid-rounds, because people remember what happened in 2018, he's somebody that I may take a chance, may take a flyer on, throw him on my bench, and just see how it plays out. Next up, we got Keke. Do you love me? I'm not going to sing this song. Coutee of the Houston Texans up next here, and he's somebody who could have put up absolutely monstrous numbers had he stayed healthy. The problem is, dude wasn't healthy, only played in 6 games this season, did come away with 28 receptions, 287 yards, and 1 touchdown, but when he played, he was a big part of the offense. He averaged over 7 targets a game. Now, what happens with this passing offense in Houston? Does Will Fuller stay healthy? Probably not. But Coutee, does he stay healthy? Who knows? There's a lot of questions. If they all three, with them and DeAndre Hopkins, can stay healthy, I really think Coutee has some sneaky PPR potential here for 2019. He's not somebody you're going to have to draft early. He's going to be somebody you're going to get in the mid to late rounds. Heck, depending on your league size, he may not even be draftable, and he'd be somebody you can get, end of your draft. He does have the upside. He already showed that he had some chemistry with Deshaun Watson last year. If they build up the offensive line here in the offseason, give Deshaun more time, Keke could be that safety valve, that Julian Edelman type role here for the Houston Texans that we kind of see him play in New England. It's definitely somewhere that has some opportunity if he can stay healthy. A lot of risk associated with that, and that's why we're not drafting him early. But if he falls to you late, not a bad option to just take a flyer on. Moving on to Michael Gallup of How About Them Boys out there in Dallas with the Cowboys, and this guy fell into a pretty decent opportunity. He fell into an offense that didn't have a lot of pass-catching weapons at the time of the draft. Then they made the move. They went out and got Amari Cooper, and then they also just signed Randall Cobb. We already know that Zeke is going to be the focal point of this offense and eat up a lot of not only clock time, but eat up a lot of plays on the ground. They're going to keep feeding Zeke and feeding him a lot. So what does that do for Michael Gallup here in 2019? I mean, he didn't have a bad year, 33 catches, 500 yards, 2 touchdowns in 2018, but what kind of target share is he going to get? Does Randall Cobb stay healthy? How involved is Randall Cobb? It's really going to be one of these hit and miss, these inconsistent type players here for 2019, I believe. He's going to have really good weeks. The problem is he's going to follow them up with really bad weeks, and it's going to be really hard to try to figure out when to play Michael Gallup. Now, he may not be somebody who's drafted in your league also, but he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on. If an injury were to occur to Cobb or Cooper, Gallup could get a pretty hefty target share in an offense that's really going to try to move the ball down the field a lot this year. Going into the draft, I'm not overly high on Gallup. He's not somebody that I would take until the end of the draft. But if you have an open roster spot, maybe if you don't and he goes undrafted, keep an eye on him because he's somebody, like I said, that could have a great opportunity if the right injury happens. Last one here on the list, and I know you may not recognize the name. Why? Because I call him Bob Foster because it sounds way cooler than Robert Foster. So talking about Bob Foster, and this is a guy who was a pretty big surprise at the end of 2018, right? He ended with 541 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not a great number, right? But he did all of that pretty much in the last 7 games of the season, ended with 3 100-yard games out of those last 7. Josh Allen's quarterback rating, whenever he targeted Bob Foster, was 117.7. They have some chemistry going on. Another offseason of chemistry building with these two. Does Josh Allen continue to take that step forward? We know they have John Brown and the Beasles, Cole Beasley there now. How much of a target share does he get, being that Zay Jones is still there? A lot of question marks in this offense, but Bob Foster was the #1 receiving option there last year. He'll go into the season, I believe, as the #1 option. But it's the target share, the volume. Does he see it, or will he be big play dependent? That's going to be the problem. We also have possibly the oldest backfield in history with LaShawn McCoy and Frank Gore. How much do they want to run the ball in Buffalo? Do they want to, really establish the run to take some of this pressure off of Josh Allen? It's entirely possible. We'll have to wait and see. Bob Foster is very intriguing for me, though, in the later rounds here of 2019. All right, I literally could have kept on going with name after name after name, but I'm trying to keep the video short and get this information out to you guys as quick as we can. Lamar Jackson, Chris Herndon, other guys I contemplated putting on this list, and they may be in future episodes, but I wanted to get some information out here, and I want to know, who are you guys thinking about here for their second-year breakout? Do you believe in the whole second-year breakout theory? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'm interested to see what it is you have to say. Let me know what you think about the guys here on this list and if you'll be targeting them here in 2019. Don't forget, head to our website, TheFantasyHeadliners.com, link in the description, and check out the draft guide. Like I said, it's available for pre-order now. You don't want to miss out on your opportunity to get a ton of information and stuff exclusive to this channel also that nobody else will be able to offer you. So go check that out. Looking forward to hearing from you guys down in the comment section. If you're new here, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let us know down below. I'd love to welcome you personally here to Headliner Nation. For right now, though, you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you later.